The grift is dying. Anti-woke content and rhetoric has been a pretty significant and loud voice within media and pop culture spaces online, especially YouTube, for many years now. However, it seems the tides are slowly turning, and the days of making 10 videos about Brie Larson in an interview, or how the casting of a black person in a Disney movie will cause that movie to fail, could be behind us. Perhaps the Chud apocalypse is real. However, what are claims without evidence? So today I'll try to sum up some of the most significant examples of the growing disinterest in anti-woke content that we at The Initiative have pointed out within the past couple of months. Also, just FYI, I'm a bit sick right now. I don't know if you can hear, but if this video sounds weird, that's it. That's the reason. Like, subscribe, check out my memberships, and let's delve right into it. And we're starting with a clip of Geeks and Gamers from a recent Friday Night Tights where he gets into a bit of a scuffle with the other members. Now, we've been saying this for a long time. Anyone who's been in this YouTube space for a while, whether it's anyone from The Initiative or Sanderhall or Vosh or anyone who has at any point made videos about Geeks and Gamers or any of the other anti-woke channels, has been saying that all these channels ever do is focus on the things they don't like, because of course dunking on the failures of Disney and Marvel and feminists and woke culture is what gets them views. The outrage is what fuels their audience and their channels, and listen, it's perfectly fine to talk about things you don't like on YouTube. Most media critics and commentators do so. It's fun to critique things we don't like and explain why, but this is excessive. And it's been excessive for years and years now. Most of these channels, especially someone like Ryan Kinel, makes multiple videos on any tiny little thing he can pretend to be mad about. He forces outrage to complain about properties that he often doesn't even care about. You never heard these guys talk about The Little Mermaid or how much they loved Snow White until these newer supposedly woke remakes came out. Suddenly, they're all massive fans and they can't believe that Disney would ruin their childhoods. And so they also force themselves to watch these things that they've spent months proving that they already hate and don't want to watch, but yet they still do and get angry about it. They rarely ever talk about things they actually like. Movies and TV shows, video games and comics that they think are awesome. And in the rare chance that they do, it's often as a means to take a dump on something they don't like. For so long now, this anti-woke space has done nothing but constantly fuel outrage clicks, giving their audiences something to be mad about, whether it's anything real or fabricated, instead of trying to talk about the things that they do like for a change. But I guess focusing on more positive things doesn't get them nearly the same amount of views. And we've been saying this for a long time now, and recently on our streams, DJ from Eric Debunks has begun pointing out that Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers had begun to seem tired of this grift. He's been removing himself from the anti-woke space more and more, and honestly it seems like he's starting to burn out. And in this clip from Friday Night Tights, he actually exposes a lot of what we've been saying for years. So if you don't believe us and think we're wrong, then here, listen to Jeremy say it.
Yeah, One Piece is objectively better.
What's more successful? What's more successful?
Well, One Piece would have been more successful. Like
maybe not. You don't know that.
No, I know that. I absolutely
know.
We do. No,
you don't.
Jeremy,
you literally said it took you 4 episodes to get into it. You told me it took you 4 episodes to get into it. If
something's good, it's good. People will watch it anyway, especially if it's weekly.
That's right. My point being is, what's dominating? Netflix. All the weekly models, nobody gives a shit about anything coming out.
The point is that we talked about One Piece for 1, maybe 2 weeks.
Yep.
Whereas
bro, Five Nights at Freddy's is dominating at the fucking box office, and we're talking about Loki.
We talked about
Five Nights
it.
At Freddy's is making more money than any film in recent memory. We're talking about Loki.
We talked about Five Nights at Freddy's. We talked about Five Nights at Freddy's
shitty
this
Marvel
week,
and shitty Star Wars.
but it was relevant.
We would talk about shitty Marvel, shitty Star Wars if it was weekly or if it was binge. We would talk about it. That's what we do.
Yeah, but the thing
I
is,
would rather talk about Five Nights at Freddy's right now. I've seen Five Nights at Freddy's twice.
It's got nothing to do with the actual fucking argument, which is the only reason you brought it up.
No,
yeah, absolutely.
So the argument is we'd still be talking about One Piece because
we should still be talking about One Piece right now. What's stopping us?
It's not in the zeitgeist anymore because they released it all at once.
What's stopping us? I'll talk about One Piece right now. Let's talk about it. Fuck this Loki bullshit. I haven't watched it. I don't give a fuck about Marvel. Let's talk about One Piece and Five Nights at Freddy's right now.
No.
Oh, okay then. Well, then don't sit there and tell me that people aren't talking about it. You don't want to talk about it.
Jeremy, I have a 30-minute fucking video on One Piece. You can go watch that.
Okay,
I sat down and edited a 30 fucking minute video.
That's my point being.
We spent a month on it. What's your favorite part?
We could be talking about One Piece right now. No one's stopping us.
No. The weekly model is
stopping
stopping. We are driven by the zeitgeist of entertainment,
no,
Jeremy.
You
so yes.
are. I'm not.
Here, Jeremy.
We can talk about it right now. What's stopping us from talking about One Piece? What's stopping us?
What is there to talk? The thing is, what is there to talk about with One Piece?
That's the same thing I can ask about Loki. What is there to talk about? It's dog shit. It's Marvel.
It just came out.
Yes, a new episode just came out, and we covered
and nobody cares about it.
Now, the others do try to counter some of his arguments by talking about the zeitgeist and how One Piece isn't being spoken about much anymore, whereas Loki is fresh, at least at the time of this video, but that doesn't explain why they weren't talking about Five Nights at Freddy's or Killers of the Flower Moon, which were relevant at the time of this stream. And also, the whole topical news thing is also kind of bullshit because they often create their own topical news. Brie Larson saying something in an interview wouldn't be a big deal if these guys weren't there to make a big deal out of it. They often force outrage, they don't simply respond to it. And it's really refreshing to see Jeremy calling out how they always focus on the bad media rather than the stuff that is actually good, that they actually like, that is supposed to be an example of what they want Hollywood to be when they criticize it all the time for not being what they want it to be. And you'd assume that most fans would spend time talking about what they actually like. Watching this is very revealing, and it validates the arguments we've been making for a long time. It's not often we see someone within this sphere actually admit to the grift, but it has been happening more and more, and this is where we get to the best parts of this discussion. Because Jeremy takes it one step further and exposes the grift entirely. How they take one tiny little piece of news or thing that Brie Larson says and milks the ever-living shit out of it. And this is relevant to all of them, but he singles out Ryan Kinel, who is still posting multiple videos a day about whatever drama he can. Naturally, Geeks and Gamers used to be just as bad, and looking at his amount of Brie Larson videos confirms this, but let's hear what he has to say.
You're making the argument right now, which is why I brought this up now.
I said no one is stopping us from talking about One Piece. No one. We can talk about it every week.
But then you ask, why aren't we talking about it now? You asked that question. I'm trying to fucking answer that question.
Yes.
And the answer is, what is there to talk about with One Piece?
A lot more than there is to talk about with Loki.
You wouldn't, first of all, you wouldn't know.
You haven't watched One Piece.
I haven't watched One Piece.
Okay.
But why don't you guys who did watch it tell me what there's to talk about now, 5 weeks after the fact, we've got no new material out when we're doing a fucking topical news show. Like,
I've been making Last Jedi videos for 4 years.
Now, I would have loved...
When's the last Jedi video you made?
Yesterday. Yesterday, literally yesterday. I just created
before I make a video. Something I
just created a One Piece discussion right now. I just created one for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No, but I would have liked.
Did we just talk about One Piece for 5 minutes? Yes or no?
We didn't. One Piece was used, but we didn't talk about it.
No.
Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Don't act like that's not what we do.
I don't build a narrative.
You're
I
an
give my
absolute
opinion.
fucking.
You are hard.
We do. You've made the same fucking video on the same topic at least 7 times a week, Ryan. And you're gonna act like we don't do that.
I talk about I talk about
says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
I talk about things that are in the news, and when something comes out that's an update to that, I talk about it, Jeremy. And guess what? If fucking there were more episodes of One Piece coming out and I cared about something like that or something that was topical to that, I would be talking about that.
This clip reveals something that we of course already knew, or at least were pretty sure of, but it revealed how this whole operation functions. They find one little piece of news, it could be as simple as something an actor has said in an interview, and they form a narrative out of it, or at least they try to, and many of these channels jump on the same little piece of outrage and bombard the algorithm with similar videos that don't even need to be honest. Sure, it's probably better for them if there's some truth to their statements, but they will just run with anything. Sometimes a narrative sticks, like with Kathleen Kennedy, Brie Larson, Rings of Power, etc. and sometimes they're short-lived, and they'll move on to the next narrative that they can force. Even when there are better things to watch, they still don't like them. Ryan Kinel didn't watch One Piece or FNAF, he only focuses on the things he doesn't like, rather than new content that people around him are saying is actually good, and he does this solely to create outrage and fuel clicks on his channel. These guys aren't fans, they don't engage with media like fans do, they just look for things they can use to build narratives and cause outrage, and Jeremy calls out this negative cycle, and his own of course. He has been just as bad as the rest of them, even if now he's seeming to be getting more and more tired with this content. However, the others don't seem to be done, and they get defensive. Real defensive. Now, this situation with Geeks and Gamers and the rest of the Friday Night Tights group is definitely the most significant example of exposing the grift and its potential downfall that we have. However, there are more examples that have been appearing as of late. For one, a little while ago, thequartering posted this: "Why do you hate me? Well, JK, sorta. I am curious, since the strike has brought in less woke cringe and the war videos are dividing lots of people, what topics am I missing? I am clearly missing the mark with my viewers. I know, McCuffy ads, but that's never really affected the channel before. I've been doing them for over a year. What kind of stuff do you want me to cover? What kind of stuff are you sick of and find yourself skipping? I feel kind of lost right now." And this is another pretty clear indication that this is ultimately a grift. I mean, it wasn't difficult to realize that thequartering isn't the most honest and integrity-driven content creator, but this is just him openly admitting that he's losing. His content isn't doing great, and he's trying desperately to cling on to the grift. He's using all sorts of tactics here, like showing a photo of him and his wife all like, "Hey, look at me, I'm just your average American hustler trying to do his work. Please keep watching." He's also directly asking his viewers what they want to watch because his content has always been fueled by how his audience reacts to it. Outrage content has always worked for him because it fuels the insecurities, pain, and isolation that a lot of people in his audience feel, but they're not vibing with this content anymore. Anti-woke content seems to have run its course for a lot of people, or at the very least is in a slump right now, and we're seeing more and more creators admit to this. We also have this guy called FilmGob, who was never like one of the massive channels that made this type of content, but he was in the space, making videos on The Last Jedi, Disney, Brie Larson, you know the deal. He was never explicitly in the realm of crying about wokeness, but he had a lot of similarities with the anti-woke channel, and he has acknowledged those similarities before. Well, he made a video titled The End of FilmGob, and I just want to show you a little clip from this short video.
What's up everyone, it's Shaker here at FilmGob, and this will be the last FilmGob video just to tell you that I won't be making any content anymore on the FilmGob channel. And you're probably going, what? Why are you doing this? Why are you stopping the channel? Well, lots of reasons. I really should have done this maybe a year ago. Mixed feelings about, you know, what I should do with the channel, and kind of limited to, you know, the kind of content you can make. So also I got tired of the whole the space that that this channel is in, and the algorithm will only push out your videos if you make a certain type of content, and I'm just like, I'm not making that kind of content anymore. I don't want to. So I thought, well, you can't really do much about it apart from start a new channel.
He basically acknowledges that he was in the space of YouTube where there were expectations for a certain type of content, and if you wanted views, then you had to jump on trends and do the content that would get clicks even if you didn't really want to. This is in general how it works on YouTube. If you want views, then make content about what's popular. But this is just another example of a person within this section of the fandom space on YouTube saying that he's tired of the grift, that he's exhausted from making this type of content, and that it's not really working anymore. Naturally, it's few channels that have stopped making content altogether, but we are in general seeing trends of anti-woke / culture war channels having diminishing returns, and most channels, rather than quitting, are getting desperate. And we have multiple examples of these desperate attempts at sparking some kind of relevancy in the midst of these diminishing returns. For example, heelvsbabyface melting down to the pronouns in Starfield in what is obviously him faking outrage just to get a viral clip.
Fucking crap! Ideology into everything! Every single solitary fucking thing!
And it worked. It got him attention for a little bit, but it didn't last. We also have these weird sponsorships and brand deals like thequartering being sponsored by Antelope Hill Publishing, a company that publishes Nazi, fascist, and ultra-nationalist pieces from history, as well as promoting and publishing newer works from extremely far-right writers. I mean, it's been a common knowledge for a long time now that thequartering is a Nazi, or at the very least pretty fucking fascist thinking, but this just seems desperate. We also have our queen Shay Diversity with his AI brigade, arguing with artists about how AI can be used to make amazing art, even giving his 6-month later progress at writing prompts. And this is a longer discussion that we don't have time for now, but we've talked about it before on the initiative. Westside Tyler also has some great videos on it. However, Shay here does seem to be leaning quite heavily into this, going a bit viral within art spaces of the internet because he's riling people up. Honestly, he's doing a lot of PR work for AI art in general, and I can imagine he's trying to aim for sponsorships. Again, this seems a little bit desperate, and looking at his channel views and analytics, his growth does seem to be stagnating or even being non-existent, but this AI stuff is giving him some relevancy again. And this brings us into our final discussion of the Chud apocalypse, because a lot of these examples of the grift beginning to crack runs in parallel with a general decrease in reach, attention, and impact of many of these grift channels. Now, real quick, when I'm pointing out that many of these channels are stagnating in terms of growth, getting way less views than they used to, and are overall showing negative trends, I fully acknowledge that they are still way larger channels than mine. A channel getting hundreds of thousands to even millions of views a month, even if these numbers have dropped dramatically, is still way better than what I could ever do. I'm not making this video to say, haha, look, they have low views. No, views have never been an indication of quality. And I also don't want this to come off as a boy crying wolf saying, look, they're doomed. Because that's exactly what these channels have been saying about Marvel and Disney and Hollywood for years now, with little to no evidence. I am, however, trying to show with evidence that anti-woke content in general has begun to lose some traction. People don't seem as invested in this specific side of the culture war as they used to, and it might be a phase of disinterest or something more revealing. But we've been seeing these downward trends in anti-woke content for some months now. I mean, when looking at analytics for channels like Geeks and Gamers, RK Outpost, Shay Diversity and Night's Watch, Young Rip, Melanie Mac, heelvsbabyface, and so on, you'll see consistent trends of lower views, low subscriber count, and sometimes even the channels losing subs. There seems to be a general downward trend of diminishing returns for exclusively anti-woke, right-wing fandom-oriented content, which is supported by all the examples we've just seen of channels admitting to this, either on purpose or accidentally. The well seems to have dried up massively. Only the largest of the channels like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinkers seem to be alright. They're definitely doing something right compared to the others. Naturally, there can be many reasons for this drop in attention for these channels. Perhaps anti-woke content has truly begun to run its course and people are getting tired of constantly hearing that Disney is dying, or that Marvel is dying, or that Hollywood is dying, or that woke media is dying, when this shit has been repeated for years and never turned out to be true. Basically just content that constantly cries wolf and fuels anger. I think this definitely could be the case, that most people are tired of this lazy wokeness is evil type content that just lacks any nuanced discussions and that simply causes outrage for the sake of causing outrage. And perhaps the people who are still listening and watching this content are just so far down the rabbit hole that they can't or simply won't come back up again. They're just being stupid. However, it could also be that this type of content is just in a slump right now due to a lack of consistent news from woke Hollywood to farm outrage clicks from, and the strikes affecting the state of media, and that it will be back again at some point once the next big grift happens, similar to a Rings of Power or She-Hulk. That's definitely possible, or it could also be signifying a shift in the nature of content, where the old make multiple videos a day saying nothing of substance, just screaming at wokeness type videos are losing steam, whereas we still see channels like The Critical Drinker and others like him that absolutely still are anti-woke channels through and through, and promote a lot of the same problematic behavior like overemphasizing people of color, women, and LGBTQ+ people, often singling them out and attributing the bad quality of a piece of media to the fact that there is diversity and representation involved. There's also the dishonest framing of videos and ideas, the spreading of misinformation, and bolstering toxic fan bases that harass and abuse other creators, celebrities, or just other people on the internet in general. However, while channels like The Critical Drinker do absolutely fall into the anti-woke category and anyone who thinks otherwise is being silly, there does seem to be more of an emphasis on appealing more to actual film and media fans with videos that actually have substance, that are actually relevant to the media itself, that provides actual critiques of the media no matter how flawed, but videos that still manage to shape these narratives within a veil of film and media criticism. That, I believe, is the biggest difference between channels like The Critical Drinker and channels like RK Outpost or heelvsbabyface. All three are grifters who will be dishonest to prove a point and who will perpetuate far-right ideologies, but one of them seems to actually care somewhat about the art of criticism and the art itself, while the others either never had that passion or have simply lost that love for the art forms. All they care about is making that quick buck, and they'll do anything to get there. So all in all, I think this trend we're seeing of reduced morale and engagement of many of these anti-woke channels, a trend we've labeled the Chud Apocalypse, is a lot more complicated than a simple answer. While I do believe there seems to be a general decrease in interest towards this lazy type of outrage content, anti-woke ideas and far-right ideology isn't going anywhere. It's not gone, it's here to stay, even if we believe it provides nothing of worth. However, I also don't think it can survive in the same way that it has. With the way downward trends like these tend to go, it seems anti-woke content on YouTube will either have to start going even more extreme, but that wouldn't really work with YouTube's TOS, and also these channels know they can't go full racist, sexist, homophobic, etc. because they know these things are seen as wrong. They know they're wrong. They are, after all, grifters. However, if the content can't go more extreme, then it must become more subtle in its promotion of combating woke media, and I think that's the future we'll be facing for a while. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you think of the Chud Apocalypse. Are we completely off, or is there something here? Let me know down below. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you suckers next time. Peace out.